The virtues of chivalric humanism. In order to understand how to improve ourselves, we must be able to identify those aspects of our personality we can improve, but before even this we have to identify what are positive and negative qualities in a person. This is the purpose of virtues. Virtues serve as some of the most important rules for chivalric humanists, these rules being necessary because attempting to calculate the consequences of actions during the moment one needs to make decisions will frequently result in a person making hasty decisions that result in less than optimal courses of action being pursued. In summary, it is difficult to remember the many rules of proper conduct a person should abide by in order to be a good person. By instead following the principles of virtues that describe the type of character a person should strive for, an individual will have a very flexible rule structure that can accommodate many different kinds of scenarios. Essentially, by focusing on being a good person, then the right actions will follow. This, I believe, is one of the great strengths of a virtue-based moral framework. Many postmodern philosophies have a tendency to become convoluted as the philosopher who originated the ideas becomes more focused in solving philosophical problems than in creating a useful framework that can be employed by the average person in their daily life. Complicated frameworks with many special rules break down when attempted in realistic situations that subject a person to mental stress and unexpected obstacles. Virtues are more flexible as guideposts for behavior, as even when a person is stressed and becomes prone to emotional thinking, they can recall what virtuous behavior is. Past generations of humans understood this, and so the most learned of philosophers employed their best reasonings to construct moral frameworks based around virtues which could then be learned and used to guide behavior by the average person who may not necessarily understand the logic behind the virtues. In this world, people live their lives following many different ideals. The freedom for one to choose how they wish to live their life is a blessing, yet this freedom can often make it difficult to distinguish what moral qualities separate the good from the evil, and the righteous from the false. In my opinion, it is virtues that are the moral characteristics which distinguish respectable people from wicked folk. It is because of virtues that a society of people are able to live together peacefully, while those without virtue live in constant disdain and discomfort while labeled as violators of social contracts, and are then distrusted. Without even a code of conduct to follow, people cannot maintain their relationships with each other, and without these relationships the fabric of a society weakens. In order for society to grow and prosper, all people must therefore grant each other a common base of consideration. The foundation for this mutual respect are the virtues, and although one person might gain a personal and temporary advantage by behaving unvirtuous, society as a whole will ultimately suffer when many people engage in these violations. Thus it is that when you advance yourself in virtue, you also help advance humanity by performing acts that benefit humanity. It is only those who are willing to face their own faults and try to overcome them that will gain the fruits of their labor. There are some people who construct their identity from external accomplishments which are subject to whimsical change, such as their relationships to others, occupations, social status, and possessions. When the foundations of a person's identity is built upon these external things and events, it leads a person to be anxious and fearful of losing the factors that define their identities. While a person should cultivate positive relationships, seek success in their careers, and possess good resources, a person cannot keep the world frozen in place so that these things are always present in their lives. This means anxiety will always be a persistent thorn in their minds, as they fear their world becoming undone when change inevitably occurs and they lose these external things in their life. Anxiety is to be diminished in life as much as possible, as anxiety leads to psychosis, a madness of the mind. Instead of building an identity based on external factors such as relationships with lovers, parents, children and friends, or possessions, a person should instead base their self-value on the cultivation of virtues, qualities and other personal capacities. This provides a more solid foundation for a personal identity. It is designed that through the walking on the road of chivalric humanism a person will cultivate these qualities, and in so doing, Also develop associated skills the person can use throughout their life to adapt to changing circumstances and environments they find themselves in when change inevitably occurs. These new acquired skills also have the added benefit of helping a person better achieve their full potential as a person as well. When living a life rooted in virtue, personal identity then becomes anchored to values a person chooses rather than tied to external things one cannot always control. A person then lives a purposeful life when living a life defined by virtues, with a mind that is strong. The virtues of chivalric humanism are not brand new ideas, they are the values of past generations of humans that have been handed down to us as culture. Not being able to govern events, I govern myself. If they will not adapt to me, I adapt to them. Lord Michel de Montaigne, 16th century French philosopher and Lord of Montaigne. While it is not enough to simply read a book to acquire virtue and that true virtue is gained through experience as a kind of skill to employ to act rightly in the correct situation, it is still important that one study the principles and virtues here in order to understand what the virtues are defined as. A virtuous character is developed through habit. If you do the correct things again and again, eventually it will become part of your character to act in this way in daily life. The 4 positive principles. In my experience, there are 4 positive principles that serve as the building blocks of right action. These principles are truth, love, courage, and wisdom. Although one may have an infinite number of reasons to perform a positive action, such as those driven by charity or pity, one or some of the 4 principles will stand out as deciding factors in these decisions. The principles are: truth, the quality of acting in accordance with fact or reality; love, the quality of having an intense feeling of deep affection; courage, the quality of a confident character who is not afraid or intimidated easily but without being incautious or inconsiderate; wisdom, the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. All of the virtues can be built from these 4 positive principles, and they can be combined in 8 ways, which I call the 8 noble virtues. The 8 noble virtues are that which those who strive to build a peaceful and honorable society should erect their moral foundation upon. Thus, from the possibilities which spawn the 4 positive principles of truth, love, courage, and wisdom come the 8 noble virtues of loyalty, altruism, valor, respect, hope, humility, integrity, and duty. The 8 noble virtues. Loyalty: be faithful to your family, your friends, and your community. The principles of truth and love becomes loyalty, for without honesty between people, how can we build the trust which is needed to maximize our successes? Loyalty also flows from love. Love nurtures trust among people, creating bonds of friendship. Genuine loyalty is then only created after sharing hardships together, causing the bond to overflow with love and compassion. As long as there are bonds like this, then communities shall not descend into evil. By contrast, power that is unrestricted by bonds will often bring about great calamities. Being faithful is a matter of believing in and devoting yourself to something or someone. A loyal chivalric humanist is one who supports the leadership and stands up for their fellows. Likewise, you should be loyal to your family and friends. You should be honest about your intentions with them, and remember that loyal service means telling hard truths. If they need assistance with some problem and are capable of helping, you demonstrate loyalty by doing so. Loyalty isn't gray, it is black or white. You can't be loyal only when it suits you. You are either completely loyal or not loyal at all. Altruism: be concerned for the suffering and misfortunes of others. The principles of love and wisdom becomes altruism or selflessness, for at some time or another all of us will need to rely on the kindness of others, and compassion is most likely to be shown to those who have exhibited it themselves. A benevolent person is ever mindful of those who are suffering and in distress. Beginning with empathy for others in distress, benevolence can be described as the correct use of your power to act for the good of the recipient. One must always be generous in so far as your resources allow. This unselfishness counters gluttony. It also makes the path of mercy easier to discern when a difficult decision of justice is required. Altruism should not be confused for overindulgence of another's vices. Providing alcohol and drugs to an addict does not make a person compassionate, as this act is not a correct use of your resources for the good of the addict. The altruistic act would be to encourage someone to overcome their addictions with support. Selfless service is an aspect of altruism. Selfless service is larger than just one person. In serving your community, you are doing your duty loyally without requiring recognition or gain. The basic building block of selfless service is the commitment of each team member to go a little further, endure a little longer, and look a little closer to see how he or she can add to the effort. A chivalric humanist should hold with conviction that with reason, an open exchange of ideas, goodwill, and tolerance that progress can be made in building a better world for ourselves and others. Valor. Be without fear in the face of adversity. The principles of courage and wisdom becomes valor, for without valor people will never reach into the unknown or dare to tempt fate, and thus will never achieve their accomplishments. Valor is not simply courage, but that strength of mind in regard to danger, that quality which enables a person to encounter danger with firmness, personal bravery, prowess and intrepidity. Valor carries a connotation of self-sacrifice in that you are being brave despite knowing you may fail, but you are aware that it is more important that you try anyway. Valor has long been associated with knighthood. With physical courage, it is a matter of enduring physical duress and at times risking personal safety. Facing moral fear or adversity may be a long, slow process of continuing forward on the right path, especially if taking those actions is not popular with others. You can build your personal courage by daily standing up for and acting upon the things that you know are honorable. Now then, let us consider what is the difference between a hero and a coward. There isn't much difference, inside they are alike. Both a hero and a coward can become afraid, they both fear dying and getting hurt. The difference between a hero and a coward is that what a hero does makes him a hero, and it is what the other doesn't do that makes him a coward. There is no one who can know courage who has not first known fear. Yet it is weak to yield to fear and heroic to face danger without flinching. A coward runs away, while a hero steps forward. Our actions decide what side of the line we fall on. True courage is found not only in facing death, but also in facing losing, ridicule or even admitting when one is in the wrong. True courage, then, is never allowing your desires to cause you to sacrifice the smallest amount of your honor to win through cheating, and to accept an honorable, if disappointing, defeat rather than take a glorious, but tainted victory. It is expected that a chivalric humanist has the compassion to not be a bully and the courage to not be a bystander. Respect. Treat others with dignity and courtesy while expecting others to do the same. The principle of love and the principle of courage give us respect, for people who care for each other will be willing to make personal sacrifices to help each other in need. Deeds which one day you may need returned to you, or which surpass our own needs because they serve a greater purpose. Respect is what allows us to appreciate the best in other people. Respect allows us to acknowledge the inherent value in other people and their worth. Respect is trusting that people have done their jobs and fulfilled their duty when you have no cause to believe otherwise. And self-respect results from knowing you have put forth your best effort. Respect is knowing that within a group each of us has something to contribute. Respect is also having a tempered attitude towards the usage of resources, whether natural occurring or man-made. To be wasteful of resources is a disservice to others who also need access to those items, and shows them disrespect. Respect is also benevolence of the strong toward the weak. Bullying is not appropriate and has no place in the civilized world. Not everyone can walk at the same pace as another, and needs to be supported on how to become stronger. Respect also requires breaking a hard truth gracefully to someone and offering criticism to others in a way that is constructive rather than spirit-crushing. Your measure as a moral person can be determined by how you treat those who can do nothing for or against you. Acts of courtesy should be the result of your consideration for the feelings of others. It should not be a result of fear of offending good taste or convention. The more it is practiced, the greater becomes your consideration for others and your understanding of other people's points of view. There are two great threats to courtesy. These are thoughtlessness and one's reaction to discourtesy, real or perceived. Guard well against making speech without prior thought to the impact of your words on others, for it is far too easy to give offense with a careless word. This is not a difficult problem to overcome, it takes only a little consideration for others. The true test of courtesy comes in attempting courtesy in the face of discourtesy. Remember that someone else's poor behavior is no reason for you to respond in kind. To do so would only reduce your own virtue. Try to see instances of discourtesy, rather than as an attack to be angered by, instead as an opportunity to test and show your virtue. He who successfully shows grace under pressure of courtesy in the face of discourtesy is truly honorable. Hope, possess an optimistic attitude, no matter the challenges you face. By combining the principles of truth, love, and courage, the virtue of hope is created, the virtue that causes one to possess an optimistic attitude, no matter the challenges you face. Hope, sometimes also known as perseverance, is the moral strength which enables people to endure the hardships they encounter, never allowing themselves to be sidetracked from success. Perseverance is the skeleton key to all kinds of success in life. To be hopeful is to be determined to accomplish your goals regardless of obstacles. It is to seek excellence in all endeavors you undertake, not just those regarding your duties in your daily job. It is also to seek out strength to be used in the service of the greater good, rather than to be used merely for personal gain. Hope is also to be self-reliant. Do not wait for someone else to do your job for you. Do not wait for the things you want in the world to be handed to you on a platter. This does not mean that you have to do something completely alone if you have no idea how to do it, or if you cannot do it. What it does mean is that you should learn things from life, learn how to solve common problems, and maybe learn a craft or two. Study books of knowledge so you can learn all you can about the world to help you in the future when that information may become incredibly vital to the survival of you or someone else. A hopeful person will remain firm in the belief that things will get better. You should believe that collectively the human capacity for goodness will always overcome the capacity for evil. If we lose faith in this, then we no longer have the grounds for hope. It is a chivalric humanist's duty to be a strong pillar in times of tragedy. Hope is the shining armor that shields a person from despair and inspires others to follow suit. Humility, to recognize and accept your own shortcomings with grace. The sixth virtue is humility, which flows from the principles of truth and wisdom. To be humble is to safeguard against being prideful, which leads to arrogance, which causes one to disregard the consequences that one's actions have on other people. Because humility is not flashy and requires a person to accept things they may not enjoy about themselves, as a virtue it is often overlooked, but no other virtue is of any assistance when you must hold fast against vanity. Although we can never completely eliminate our inherent capacity for vanity, we can hold it at bay by wielding humility with sincerity. When practiced with sincerity, humility refuses the comforts of praise, keeps you listening to the quiet whisperings of truth, and confers a measure of grace. Sincerity is the key to humility. Humility that is play-acted, even if you yourself are the audience, is powerless. Indeed, it becomes a weapon of vainglory rather than being used against it. To seek sincerity requires the onerous duty of peering inside you to see both the light and the darkness, the good and the bad, the excellent and the poor. To accept these things as truths is a daunting, yet noble task. Once the truth is seen, one has the further duty to seek to improve those virtues in which he is lacking. It is the attempt to work towards the ideal of humility that makes one humble. There will never be one who reaches the ideal, and yet this virtue may be gained even though the ideal itself remains unreachable. How is this accomplished? By avoiding the comfort awarded by praise. Should you strive to behave honorably, you will in due course earn honor and praise from those who see you as virtuous. And yet you must avoid placing too much weight on this praise, even if it is purchased on the authority of your own integrity. Vanity is too clever for that, it can easily overtake you. As soon as you are comfortable that you are a virtuous person who has acted with righteousness, you are as vulnerable as a babe to vanity's jaded charms. Integrity: do what is right, morally and legally. By combining the principles of truth, wisdom and courage, we find the virtue of integrity. Integrity is a quality you develop by adhering to moral principles. It requires that you do and say nothing that deceives those who have your trust, and defend the weak and the helpless from oppression. When actions do not follow words, there can be little trust. As your integrity grows, so does the trust others place in you. The more choices you make based on integrity, the more this highly prized value will affect your relationships with family and friends, and, finally, the fundamental acceptance of yourself. A chivalric humanist should have an interest in securing justice and fairness in society and in eliminating unjust discrimination and intolerance. You must possess a sense of stewardship of humanity's future and unfeigned love for people. A person should be as good as his word and a handshake. It is to be mentioned that deception has a place in warfare and other situations where lives may be at risk. It is necessary for a military commander to achieve strategic and tactical advantages through surprise in order to serve the greater good of achieving victory. It is critical to remember that the positive principle of truth in chivalric humanism means to act in accordance with reality, and this also means to always consider the circumstances a person finds themselves in. In private conduct, one never has permission to be deceptive between those of good faith, but in matters of life and death against an enemy who wishes to do harm, some amount of deception is permissible in order to serve goodness. The ultimate aim of war is to achieve peace, and this must be remembered, else a person acts in a way that is inconsistent to the reality of the situation they are in. Duty: fulfill your obligations to humanity. Duty stems from all of the principles. Wisdom, because it requires a person to carefully consider the consequences of their actions. Courage, because serving often requires a person to stand against the doubts and fears. Truth, because duty must always be guided by it, and love for humankind. Based on the social contract you have with superiors such as teachers and managers, it is your duty to obey their instructions, but doing your duty means more than carrying out your assigned tasks. Duty means being able to accomplish tasks as part of a team. You fulfill your obligations as a part of your team every time you resist the temptation to take shortcuts that might undermine the integrity of the final product of the team. A person should have an interest in securing justice and fairness in society and in eliminating unjust discrimination and intolerance. You must also possess a sense of stewardship of humanity's future and unfeigned love for people. Furthermore, as a chivalric humanist, you should have a commitment to the use of critical reason, factual evidence and scientific method of inquiry in seeking solutions to problems and answers to important questions. You should be committed to making your life meaningful through better understanding of human history, intellectual and artistic achievements, and the outlooks of those who differ from yourself. You should be concerned with the fulfillment, growth and creativity of both individual people and humankind in general. In conclusion about virtues, a person who lives by these core values is an honorable person. Honor is essentially the combined traits of a person who follows the 8 virtues. Honor is what is achieved by living up to the ideals and pursuing the qualities and behavior listed above. The honor of a chivalric humanist is a sacred thing to the self and cannot be lightly set aside or trampled on. A person develops the habit of being honorable through deeds and solidifies that habit with every value choice they make. Honor is a matter of carrying out, acting, and living the values of loyalty, altruism, valor, respect, hope, humility, integrity and duty in everything you do. Therefore, the virtues are designed to be utilized as a collective to guide decision-making, and they should not be used in isolation. They each have a role in decision-making, especially regarding the most complicated issues.